Namaste and greetings. I, Zubia Moin, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान नई दिल्ली extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. Today, we are gathered for a book discussion on City Reflections, a practitioner's experience in urban governments amidst uncertain times with Samir Unhale. This deliberation is a part of the State of Cities #City Conversation series organized by the IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies. As the chair for the session, we have Dr. Rumi Aijaz, Senior Fellow, ORF Urban Policy Research Initiative. We welcome you, sir. With permission of chair, I would like to introduce the gathering. We are elated to welcome the keynote speaker for today's talk, Samir Unhale, who is an urban practitioner. We welcome you, sir. We are also joined by esteemed discussants, Professor Mahalaya Chatterjee, Professor of Economics and Co-ordinator, Postgraduate Diploma in Urban Management and Planning, University of Calcutta. We welcome you, ma'am. Professor Manjula Bharati, Professor and Dean, School of Habitat Studies, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. We welcome you, ma'am. We'd also like to welcome Saili Udas Mankikar, Head, City Climate Alliance, National Institute of Urban Affairs, New Delhi. We welcome you all. As the moderator for today's session, we have Dr. Simi Mehta, CEO and Editorial Director, IMPRI. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Simi ma'am to initiate the deliberation. We look forward to learning from the esteemed gathering. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zubia, and good evening to one and all, and happy Dhanteras to everybody who is celebrating today. So it is an honor to be moderating this session this evening on a book discussion that has been penned by Mr. Samir Unhale, which is, the book is called City Reflections, a Practitioner's Experience in Urban Governance Amidst Uncertain Times. I've had the opportunity to read through the book, and this really provides a whole range of wide-ranging, varied experiences that Mr. Samir Unhale, being an administrator and a practitioner, has had during the uncertain times of the pandemic. And the way he has handled the pandemic, dealing with the people, dealing with the governments, it has been really, really amazing. So on behalf of IMPRI Books, we are really delighted to have published this at Impact and Policy Research Institute. And this is certainly going to be a very wonderful deliberation. And what better to start this with the help of the chair of the program today, Dr. Rumi Aijaz. So please take it over from here, and I wish the deliberation all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simi, for your words. And is my voice coming?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
So I would like to begin by saying good evening to all the participants. My greetings to you. I would like to congratulate the author, Mr. Samir Unhale, on his new book. And I think this contribution is important. It is timely, and I see it is valuable and worthy. As you all know, it is being said in the media and elsewhere that India is going to become the most populous nation in the world by next year. And this has many implications for the country, for the rural areas, and for the urban areas as well. Already we know, we are familiar with the conditions that prevail in the country. There seems to be a tremendous pressure of population on every urban sector, I would say, be it land, infrastructure, or services. And this pressure is so much that the civic agencies or the agencies that are working at different levels in the country, they are struggling to manage with the growth that is occurring. And when India becomes the most populous nation in the world, then the increase in urban population is going to have different types of effects on the environment, on the landscape, etc., etc. So I think the prevailing conditions, I need not elaborate on them. We are all familiar with the conditions that exist in Indian towns and cities. But we would all agree to the point that we need better efficiency, better functioning systems of governance. We need better governance to address the challenges that we are witnessing over the years. It is not that the existing reforms and the strategies that are being applied in different parts of the country in the urban context are not showing results. Some positive results are being achieved, but the problem is that the adversities are so much that within these huge problems that are being witnessed, those small positive results are hazy. They are not visible as clearly as they should be. So that's the point of concern to everyone, that we need agencies that function in a better way, and also a certain amount of responsiveness from the citizens is also the need of the hour. Together, the two stakeholders, the government on the one side and the citizens on the other side, and the partnerships that they form to study the challenges and to come out with solutions that are effective are urgently needed. So in this context, I see this publication by Mr. Unhale as very important. It is needed. It is needed by the government agencies. It is needed by all those scholars who are working on these subjects, and also by the student community who's so much interested in gaining further understanding of the uncertain times that we are in. So with these brief remarks, I would like to welcome the speaker, Mr. Unhale, to come and present his views. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Dr. Rumi. It has always been a delight to listen to your views. They are always very, very fresh and always offer a very different perspective from what we normally are used to. So thanks a lot. I must thank IMPRI for encouraging me and also supporting me, all the interns who helped me, because we are expected to write a lot, but ultimately end up just signing things, whatever is written. And therefore, the art of writing has to be practiced more and more. And actually, these were more of reflections rather than experiences. So we always felt that the way the cities were handled, maybe, I mean, if you look at the emergence of or the beginning of the managing municipal setup in Indian context, I think 1850 could be, we can take that as a watershed, not that we didn't had a municipal form of governance prior to that in the presidency towns like Calcutta, Mumbai, Chennai. But the advent of municipal form of governance in Indian context, I take as one of the date is 1st January of 1850, Then when the famous or infamous Governor General then introduced the Act of 84 of Act is called as Act of 24 of 1850, 1st Jan 1850, in which all the British domains were allowed to establish municipal councils. It was an All India Act and the all British India Act, in which various provinces and chief commissionerate areas were allowed to introduce municipalities in their respective towns. And in fact, you would find that many of the municipalities in the British controlled India then started popping up after 1850s. You know, I think one of the first ones to come up were from the district of North Kannada. Then I think in the Bombay province, and other than we find that many municipalities coming up in 1850s, 1855, 1860. And then of course we had the amendments of Lord Ripon and those things. So I felt that in that sense, the introduction of municipal form of governance in cities started in that era. And then slowly we saw how it evolved from being rather a very European concept or a very British concept of managing cities by way of municipalities. Later, it became a bedrock of the the home rule, the self-governance movement which started. And then, of course, post-independence, we saw it graduating from the democratic decentralization and the electioneering as a part of city governance entered. We had the 74th Constitutional Amendment, the Urban Commission, and then, of course, the era of missions from 2005, the JNNURM started, and later into Swachh Bharat and the Amrut and Smart Cities and Hriday, and the Antodaya mission, the PMAY, and various such the era of missions in that sense. So in that way, I always felt that the way cities were handled, or rather are being handled now, and the very rather DNA of the running of the cities very much lies probably into the 19th century. And now here we are in the 21st century with its own challenges. I sometimes choose to call this at the third decade of the third millennium. And probably it seems to be a very important phase of our history. I think every generation has its set of challenges. I think our grandparents had probably more challenges than what we have, or rather our parents had. But the challenges, I think, are very unique. And therefore, in these times, from 1990 onwards to maybe 2020, we had a set of probably a fairly comparable and stable global and economic setup. But now we find, especially after we had to face COVID and other geopolitical challenges which are coming up, that talks of other economic challenges which are coming up, and probably we will have to put in a lot of innovation and a lot of collaboration, to tide up the challenges that we would be facing. And probably we may not have ready-made answers, or we may not have earlier, experiences which could be used for that. So it's going to be a fairly new set of challenges, and institutions and processes and way we are governing it, and the protocols we follow, the behavioral elements of our citizens, the mindset of the citizens, the cultural context to urbanity, and all these things, I felt that, there's a lot of tectonic shifts are happening. And therefore, the implications that it's going to have in the way our cities are run, administered, governed, managed, serviced, and more importantly, in how the huge population that's coming up, especially, it's just not India, but even the other cities and towns of global south, which probably will have to go through a very major set of challenges, and we therefore require a lot of innovation for that. My second point always was that I always found that we all have a specific role to play, and this role gives us a rather peculiar or a particular perspective to the various phenomena that are happening. So these perspectives, these, these whatever limited ideas that we have, we could compare that with the 5 blind men and the elephant. And, so the various roles we are into in the society, we always have a limited perspective, all said and done. And I felt there is therefore a very great need of collaboration and cooperation and sharing of these ideas, sharing of these perspectives, sharing of these experiences, and more and more interaction needs to happen from academic circle to the practitioners, to the media, to students, to citizens, and therefore the ideas need to float freely amongst all of us, because I sincerely feel that any single institution or any single role, if we look at it, would not be sufficient to respond to the challenges that we are facing. I think one of the peculiarities of these uncertain times, as far as the cities are concerned, would be the scale and the speed with which things will have to move. And somehow, if we look at the typical paper-based red tapeism or bureaucratized way of functioning, I think we require more of efficient, as Rumi sir said, very efficient and effective city management and governance and service delivery to the citizens. And therefore, this collaboration, I believe, is very important. I think it is going to be one of the keystones of our efforts that we might be taking. We will have to take in next at least 20 years. I think this block of 20 years, 2 decades is going to be very crucial for the various challenges we are going to face. With this, I think the peculiarity of a perspective of a role and sharing and collaboration amongst them was something I felt was very important and very necessary. And I think I must take opportunity to thank IMPRI, to allow me to interact, to encourage, to help, to assist, because all said and done, the mind is in pieces when peace is not there. And therefore, to bringing up all the thoughts together, I am absolutely, grateful for this entire help that was given on this ground. I think when we are looking at, when we are talking of uncertain times, certain means, I believe it is our basic premises, our assumptions, maybe the cause-effect relationship that we are considering when we are looking at the phenomena or the possible outcomes at it. I think they are going through major changes. So probably there is, as I keep on saying, there is no one-to-one correspondence of cause and effect. And definitely not so in social sciences. Of course, I am not a student of epistemology or ontology or philosophy to dwell upon the implications of these premises into the way causality or the urban phenomena could be studied. But one thing is getting very clear, that these relations are not simple. They are probably more complex, and it is multiple implication of multiple factors impacting it and probably giving outcomes which sometimes, as others say, it will always be a probabilistic outcome of the various complex phenomena which are interplaying with each other even in urban spaces. And therefore, when we are trying to study or try to understand and try to come up with certain solutions, policies, actions, individual changes in behavior, then this very fundamental thing, that how the urban phenomena are to be understood, and then the implications on policy and execution, I think, is going to be a very important challenge for these uncertain times, especially when things are changing so rapidly. So the cause effect matrix that we have earlier probably is not going to run. And therefore, this sharing and collaboration, I think, becomes more and more important. Thirdly, I think I wanted to share was the experiences as to how city responded in 3 cases. First, of course, was COVID, because in initial phases, when COVID started, I think the one very important lesson, I think, which we will have to learn is how to manage mass hysterias. I mean, the social psychology or the way the rationalities or irrationalities of fears, of individual fears, when they come up together, when they sum up, it is a very important lesson, I think, We will all have to take that when we are, I mean, any governance or management is just not going to be the rules and the institutions. Is going to be the citizens, the human part of the citizens, and how it will be responding to the various interventions that are suggested. Because I think this was a test case. COVID probably was a test case, for us as to the way the time would be unfolding. So the speed, the acceleration, and the reach. If some action has to be taken, then it has to be taken probably in hours in all the 4,000 and 4,500 cities and towns of the country. I think that is the probably the readiness that one might to have, especially we saw in COVID times when the expansion, when the actions were to be taken, they were taken to be not only these 4,000 and 4,500 cities and towns, but also the 6.5 lakh villages. So this speed, with which things will have to function, I think is a great eye opener. It's going to be it has shocked us into awakening that the way things have to move is going to be a bit different in these coming decades. Secondly, I thought was the use of technology. We all will have to learn and adopt to the various technological advances that are coming up. There, of course, are issues of inclusion. There are issues of illiteracy. There are issues of non-familiarity with the technology. And then when progressively we are seeing a lot of e-governance coming up, a lot of portalization of various missions and a lot of things. So we will also have to take into consideration that how are we going to really plan and ensure that the all sections of our society, the foundation of the pyramid, foundation of the building, the foundation of the nation, all the people who are into the city makers and the gender elements, the disabilities, or how are we going to include the perspectives, the challenges, and the specific solutions that we might have to come for. And therefore I think this technology would help us to tide over or make sense of these uncertain times. And I think therefore the technological element, I think, is going to be another important part. And third, of course, as I said, is the sharing. And the sharing need not stop only in maybe the cities in India. I think the elements of para-diplomacy for cities is acknowledged sometimes. It, of course, is not a mainstream. It might require time. But I do feel that in these uncertain times, the greater collaboration of cities across countries, across continents is something which is going to help us a lot. And I think we will have to plan and ensure and encourage as to how the mid-level functionaries of the cities connect to each other, share their experiences. And therefore, when we are talking of overall greater interconnectedness or globalization, or whichever word we might choose of, this element of this, I mean, to make sense of the uncertain times, or to tide over, and not only tide over, but also to encourage and to overcome, use it as a power, as a accelerator for us. What is it that can be done, to improve and enhance and encourage the sharing amongst the cities, among the functionary across countries and continents. So we will have to take a rather global view. We will have to take help of technology. We will have to understand that these times are different than what they were probably 2 or 3 decades. And the fossilized way of functioning of cities, of the typical bureaucratic, paper-based bureaucratic functioning of cities in way of delivery of civic services, of providing infrastructure and other welfare services, will see a major change. And I think we will have to remember that the essence is time. Time may not be, time will be, I mean, time is going to be the great luxury for us. We will have to learn to respond at a speed of accelerated speed, and take everybody with us. And this is going to be a major challenges for cities. Of course, maybe I will probably just share a couple of thoughts here. Maybe I will stop speaking more than the time allotted. But I felt, this perspective, or rather these reflections due to the experiences in the way cities are running, cities are will be required to face the situation. I think this is very important for us to understand that these are very different times. Second, I think the third, of course, was also mentioned by Dr. Rumi sir, that also mentioned by Dr. Rumi sir, that the citizens' engagement is going to be another very major challenge. How are we going to? First of all, the sizes. The size of standard municipality, of course, would be maybe 1 lakh, 3 lakh, 5 lakh. But then we are entering into the era of huge mega city regions like maybe Mumbai, it's Delhi, the NCR, maybe Bengaluru, and all are probably becoming hyper cities over 10 million, maybe 20 million. And then, how our municipality, of course, is as a phenomena, it probably can take care of a community. But when we are talking of maybe this huge population of 10 million, 20 million, and we expect this trend to somehow increase, and especially in Indian context, we'll be having smaller and smaller cities of larger and larger population, unlike in other developed, maybe the European or North American continent, where there is a larger spread of maybe medium-sized cities, or million population cities as compared to the proportion. So I think this is a phenomenon of global south in which we're having huge city regions. And probably the question does arise whether the municipal form of government, in this current way, is it going to really help tackle such huge urban agglomerations that we are bound to see in coming decades? And then how are we going to respond to that? Are we just going to create another maybe 10, 20, 25, 30 municipalities in that city region? Are we going to create a parastatal only for land use planning or infrastructure provision? How are we going to tackle the service delivery? How are we going to address the issues of urban finance, to take care of this entire huge human enterprise that's really coming up? And therefore these would be requiring a lot of innovations. I really don't think we have any ready-made answers in our history books or in our earlier the urbanization India or maybe other countries from global south faced for last maybe 1.5 to 2 centuries. So these therefore are very also interesting times. So I think it's not gloomy to be working in uncertainty. It is in fact therefore very exciting. It is therefore it requires a lot of courage, a lot of enterprise, a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, and therefore also a sense of adventure. That when we are, not, I won't be saying we are captaining the ships, but all of us probably are in an adventure where it is is going to be so crucial that we will have to ensure that we overcome these challenges. And maybe a bit of historical view. We had our first urbanization, our second urbanization, now third urbanization across across continents and countries. And probably there is also to learn from how the different urban communities are responding to the challenges, and probably we have responded to the challenges earlier. And if we can learn something, that is going to be very important. Lastly, of course, the challenges of climate is always there, environment is always there, and cities are going to be the biggest, shall we say, damagers or the biggest contributors to these challenges, and therefore it's going to be very, very important to walk the talk. I know that it is going to require a lot of actions from everybody, and therefore this collaborations coming together is going to be very, very crucial in these coming times. For overcoming these peculiar challenges, I believe these uncertain times has thrown onto us. And therefore, broadly, I think this was more of, I felt it was, from my side, it was more of a compilation of stray thoughts, largely very much helped, in fact, by IMPRI and our intern friends, to get it some semblance of that. So I felt this sharing of thoughts, ideas was more important. It may not be the best form. It actually could have been better for whatever time that's available for me. but and also without the help, it would have been simply impossible. But the sharing I felt was more important, because I always felt that, the history of or maybe the documentation very often remains within the structure. It has to come up with the academicians, and therefore sharing the ideas, it may not be the best, so it may not be the only perspective for that. As I keep on saying, it is a perspective which comes from a particular role an individual plays into that phenomena. And this perspective, I felt, had to be shared. These ideas had to be shared in whichever form to our academic friends, to help assist, and maybe it, of course, it is there. It doesn't has any rigorous, scientific as such. But I felt the sharing of ideas was something that could be experimented, and more and more such experiences, I think, would be really important, really helpful. And more and more such experience should come up ideally, and not only from a particular role. In fact, we were trying to document the thoughts and ideas of our friends who worked in COVID times. We are trying to, of course, as it happened, we're trying to get the similar reflections, experiences of maybe ambulance drivers, maybe the sanitary staff who worked in those times, the nurses who worked in those times, the doctors who worked in those times. I think all these experiences, I think, needs to be documented and categorized and made available in open data form soon. And therefore, I think this was just an experiment, and I'm grateful for all that help. And I think, Dr. Rumi, thank you very much for allowing to share some of my, as I keep on saying, stray thoughts, more reflections, just more of reflections, really. And I hope this sharing of ideas with our academic friends would help to some extent. And thank you very much, Dr. Rumi, for that. And thank you, IMPRI, for this opportunity. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to congratulate you once again on your new book. I think this is a very good contribution from your side, especially you working as a practitioner for several decades now. And I think your idea of sharing the work that is in the process of publication, or it has been published, it's a wonderful thought and a much needed thing for that would benefit many stakeholders. On your presentation, I would say that I think it was an excellent description, very good description of the way you described the evolution of urban local governments or municipalities in India, and the kind of reforms and these steps that have been taken from time to time to strengthen those administration agencies, and also the discussion from your side on the emerging challenges was equally good, I would say. It covered a wide range of aspects, issues related to urbanization, and are some of the most essential challenges that governments at various levels are dealing with. And then ultimately your point on the urgent need for innovations, need for collaboration, need for sharing or exchange of ideas is, I think, where communities around the world, this is where they are at this stage. There is a lot of work that is going on in this direction about getting together, bringing stakeholders or people who work on different aspects, bringing them together, offering them a platform, and then exchanging their work, their ideas, sharing their views on the different facets of urbanization. I believe, and everybody would agree, that this is how knowledge is built. And this is how the best kind of innovations emerge if this methodology is adopted. So whether it's the national government, ministry in the national government, or the state government departments where you work, or the local governments, their step towards engaging with non-state stakeholders is something. It's a very important initiative. They could be said to be struggling. They could be facing problems, but at least the effort is there from their side about how best they can, what best they can do to improve the state of affairs in urban areas. And you have thrown up or provided us a set of tasks that that experts, policymakers, planning community, practitioners, implementing agencies need to consider as they move forward in their work. So this also opens the platform of today to invite the distinguished panelists who are participating in the program. And I would follow the same order that is mentioned in the program that has been circulated to us. I would begin by inviting Professor Mahalaya Chatterjee, who is with the University of Calcutta. She has tremendous experience. She has been working on these topics for a very long time and teaching students, playing an important role there as a teacher. And I would invite her to reflect her views on the topic that's being taken up for presentation today, and also if she got time to look at the contents of the book. Professor Chatterjee, over to you.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. And thanks, IMPRI, for giving me this chance for the discussion of the book. But I did not have any chance to look into the book. What I will talk is just on what Mr. Unhale has been presenting, and he has taken up, the name is very interesting, a practitioner's experience in the governance amidst uncertain times. Now, as you know, that urban governance in India is a debated item for a long time, that who would govern and how would they govern? How would they govern? As we have seen, Mr. Unhale has pointed out that it started in British India. It started in British India in the 1850s. And as we know that with the report of the sanitary commissions in the 1860s, the three major cities at that time, Bombay, Calcutta and Madras, today's Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai, they got their, the local governments were there. Calcutta Corporation, Madras Corporation were there, but they are given enhanced connectivity by this sanitary commission to provide this purified water, and then good drainage system, underground drainage came after that, and so and so. So this enhanced responsibility of the urban government started with the sanitary commission, and to be very specific, to deal with the so-called epidemics of that time, the waterborne epidemics and others. The cholera was the main, and not to miss malaria and typhoid, which basically they are waterborne diseases, and so and so. So there is a relation between urban governance and the management of epidemics. In fact, urban governance was given much more importance to deal with the epidemics and others in the British India. Of course, Lord Ripon took up this issue of local governments and more intensely. We have Home Rule movement and others. Everybody, in fact, the urban governments, the municipal governments became a tool with the so-called our freedom fighters. You see from the 1920s, especially the Congress party, sometimes aided by some local parties, they could gain access to the municipal governments by winning the elections. And whatever be the size of the electorate, only the property owners could vote and all that, but they could gain their way. And most of the times we saw our nationalist leaders leading the municipal governments. And of course, they took up many important issues. As far as I know, in Kolkata, when Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was the mayor, he took up the issue of primary education very seriously. The so-called corporation primary schools were set up when he was the mayor himself. So we had a very glorious past, but somehow after the independence, as you know, we forgot about them. We went to the we took up the whole development regime in the name of the so-called development authorities, the parastatals. We forgot about the elected representative and others. But after the 74th Amendment, it has become a difficult, I should not say difficult, but it has also become a job of synchronization by the practitioner with the elected representative. And that is the very important aspect, and nowadays it's not only the CEOs and the executives, they are running it. They have to coordinate with the elected representatives, and that's where the so-called ward committees, area committees, that come into the existence. Now, when I come to the last part of the name of the book, that is Uncertain Times, I think she has made the reference to tacit reference to the pandemic itself, and he has also pointed out three things: that the COVID pandemic, the enhancing importance of technology, and the collaboration not only within the country but also across the country. I think all these three are very, very, very important. As far as COVID management is concerned, it took the coordination with the elected representative with the practitioners. Otherwise, the elected representative knows his area, and the practitioners knows how to manage, how to deal with the pandemic. So the things we have seen all over India during the pandemic, that is the distribution of amenities, starting from distribution of amenities to the issue of vaccination. In most of the cases, the issue of vaccination was also managed by the local authority, and the initiative was taken by the ward councillor or somebody like him. So starting from the initial days of COVID pandemic, when everything was in topsy-turvy, the doctors did not know how to do. There was no protocol for COVID and others. The things were more difficult. There also, at the time of lockdown, the practitioners, they have to widely communicate with the elected representatives for the awareness campaign. The very first thing that was needed during the COVID, that people did not understand what is COVID and for why he should not go out, he should not mingle with people. That awareness campaign, the miking and everything that was done at the local level was a great job done by the practitioners along with the elected representatives. And of course, we know that technology is changing and evolving day by day, and technology is also becoming accessible to the common people day by day. What was unthinkable even 3 decades ago, nowadays even a common people, if he has access to a smartphone and some sort of data, he could get access to anything and everything. But this has to be made more people friendly than others. That is a different issue. But one must understand that the COVID management has become easier with the use of technology, and with the innovative use of technology. And the third thing he has taken up, he has rightly pointed out that in a globalizing world, it's very important to know about other cities, not only in your own country, but also in the other countries. How they could manage difficult situations, how they could tackle a difficult situation, how this contact with the people on one hand and the contact with the authorities on the other hand can be done very efficiently. Each city can become a model to other cities, because for each city the situation was difficult. The pandemic was common, but how the pandemic was spreading, where it was concentrated, where it was not concentrated, it was widely spread in the cities. Then the type of habitats, somewhere we have seen in the Western world, in Brazil, in New York, in European, the so-called the economically weakest section, they were more affected. But India somehow we have seen that even in Dharavi, we have seen the initial attack could be managed very efficiently. Now somebody is saying that the poor people, they did not taste, so we are saying that the slums were not very much affected. But on the other hand, sero surveys and other things have shown that these people have got antibodies and others very quickly. Maybe their immunity is stronger than the so-called well-to-do people and others. But even then, the awareness campaign and others done by the practitioners with the help of elected representatives was something to follow. That is very important. Then I would end up by saying that I should congratulate Mr. Unhale for taking up the task of writing this book. In India, we have seen that the government officials and others, they take up writing book up after their retirement. So sometimes it happens that what they have done, what experience they had to share has become quite archived. So as he has taken up this job just after the pandemic, that also deserves some congratulations, because it can be used immediately, and it can be very useful in tackling other types of epidemics like dengue and others. Thank you, and thanks again.
Thank you, Professor Chatterjee. It was very interesting to listen to your thoughts. Two things that you mentioned, I would like to highlight them, re-emphasize them. One is about the important role that urban local bodies or municipalities have been playing over the years since their constitution, how they are addressing the challenges experienced in different urban sectors, be it health or education, etc. And the second point you mentioned about, and which is very important, it's about generating greater awareness among the citizens and the society as a whole on a certain situation, how to react in certain situations, and how much they can benefit by using technology in their day-to-day life. These are very important for the large masses that are living in the country, in different parts of the country, because there is a direct connection between their familiarity with these sets of techniques that are available, awareness, and also about the benefits they would derive after using such tools. So thank you very much. I'm sure the author of the book would like to respond to the points that have been shared by you. But before that, I would like to invite Professor Manjula Bharati, who is with the Tata Institute of Social Science, to please share your views, restricting yourself to about 7 to 8 minutes, if that is fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope I am audible. Thank you, IMPRI, and happy Diwali to all. And congratulations to the author for writing very relevant and significant book, both in the name of the title and, where you are speaking about, the difficult and uncertain times. So we all know, like the today's time, it's the centuries of cities and towns. Another point and perspective to it. So one practitioner speaking about the cities and towns will be very interesting to read, though I have not read the book. And it is definitely difficult and uncertain times if you're trying to look it from with respect to the GDP, with respect to the carbon footprints, with respect to the energy consumption, and with respect to the environment load. Definitely this is a difficult time. And then the way we live in, like to manage cities, it is important in today's time when we all speak about SDG 11, it is important to reimagine and reposition and how to make the systems that we are living in to make sustainable, which, like that we continuously go on speaking about the rhetoricities of inclusiveness, of resilience, and to the adversities, which are mainly anthropogenic, and then where we could see a multiplicities of inequalities, inequities, marginalities, vulnerabilities, and then the questions of structural and systemic violence, where we could see violence of the cities and violence in the cities. So how we are going to, understand the cities in this perspective, where one of the things which I really feel as a person who is engaging with the cities is to enlarge the basket of stakeholders who engage with the cities. So one of the things which I really feel important there is to look at from the perspective of habitat and habitus, and city as a habitat, the field where we would like to engage in, and then the habitus, the social practices, economic practices, political practices, historical practices that makes city a different habitat, So though we know that we continuously again speak of the 73rd, 74th Amendment, we, somewhere needs to, again, say that it is only in letters and not in practice. Because we speak about, smart city approaches. But then again, side by side, we also need to ask the questions that who are excluded here and how they are excluded, and what is the politics of exclusions, and who are the participants, what grids of what exclusions are used to, engage with this missions of inclusions, who are actively included, and why they are actively included, and who are silent. That is to me the most important question. And is there a continuing spiral of silence? And is the silence is getting enlarged? And who are actually embedded in the spectrum of silence? And how to understand then, as an academician, this phenomenology of absences. So we speak about the multi-governance from the neighborhood level, ward level, area committee, municipality, city level, state level, and a national and a global level. But how to include the multi-stakeholder engagement in discussing with the cities is very important. And I feel that one of the most important need of the art is no doubt about the citizen-induced co-production of inclusive cities. One, what could be gained from this? We can contest negative identities produced due to the lack of income and poverty. We can also ensure about the service delivery to the most deprived citizens, and we can definitely build neighborhood organizations to represent the needs of the most marginalized group. And what we see today, right now, that we can see that the laws and the regulatory frameworks in the cities makes, more than 60% of the people as invisible, informal, and illegal, basically outside the development investment of their own cities. So this is a very problematic situation in where we have to discuss about the hegemony of the space, hegemony of the infrastructure, and as the counter hegemony, to this hegemonic structures of power, how can the cities, produce data of themselves? How can the marginals be included to produce a data? Because that is the most important thing when we have to plan for them, disaggregate data at the micro level, and how can the data about the informal settlements, about the vulnerable, about the marginalized communities can come from them. And that will be politically and epistemologically relevant in this context because it gives them an identity and a voice. So it is very important at this level for the ULBs to have an evidence-based representation of, the people who are living in the margins, and the voices coming from them, the data coming from them, and how can we empower the groups to make a representation about themselves, about their lived experiences, to question the inequalities and iniquities covering them. And to end with that, I feel that academically, theoretically speaking, one of the things that, we need to discuss about the cities is the whole question about governmentality, because how, like the mentality, like how being governed by certain question of mentality, which rethink the notion of the government. And it is important in the concept when we are trying to understand that in the concept of humanities and social science. So it's basically trying to look at context of the context, that is how it is important, how we behave is important when we're trying to understand the citizen engagement and the concept of governmentality, how the process of governing, how we govern and how we are governed. So this process, relationship between the government, state and the people, the governance and the government, it is very important to understand. So it is important to understand the government of the state, the government of others and government of ourselves, when we are trying to look at that. So this governmentality study to look the cities from the discourse of governmentality will be very important. Like, Amartya Sen was speaking about, we have an ideology, we have an institutions of local governance, and we have the manifested practices. But how divergent are this ideology from the practices, and how the institutions have their kind of challenges in making this ideology to practices, So that is important, and that is where we have to look at this whole question of citizenship, gendered citizenship, and the trajectory from moving from individual to a citizen, and that is actually the crux, I feel, when we are thinking about, from the politics of absence to the politics of ideas, to the politics of presence, to the politics of being, of subjectivity, which is actually like, Unhale was speaking about the ontology and subjective epistemology, subjectivity as an intersection of one's own being and one's own knowledge, where one can speak about how can I have, to have my claims and my rights, to understand the distinction between these two perspectives, and what is, like Lefebvre was speaking about, what is my right to the cities of every individual. At the same time, the neoliberal governmentality, like, there's a disposition by accumulation. But then in that space, how can I claim the space in my cities? How can I have a right to the cities in the right-based discourse of development? That is very important. And that is where the importance of everyday governance and lived experiences, and then the reflections of a practitioner who tries to look at the cities in a difficult time, and that epistemological perspective becomes important in understanding, So the last point, like the city governance, Kerala, like I'm from Kerala, how the Kerala becomes important, especially during the pandemic, when the Patrick Heller coming out and saying that how, the local governance in Kerala was very important in addressing the adversities in the pandemic, and how local governance becomes the face of the governance in dealing with the most difficult times of the people. The importance of local governance becomes significant and relevant. And there again, the women collectives of Kudumbasri, there's 42 lakh women there, how they made change through the digital literacy and e-governance in the pandemic in addressing the difficult times, So how the counter hegemony come from within within us, from that is the power has to come from within us and not from outside. And so that is the most important time that we have to look at. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Professor Bharati. I think you had many points to share, and thank you very much for your reflections on the theme that has been chosen for today's discussion. I would like to say a few things about the point that you mentioned about the growing informality in our cities. You are absolutely right about this. And I agree, and I see this as a big threat in future. When India is urbanizing at whatever rate it is urbanizing, it is gradual or a little quicker pace, it's going to urbanize in the near future. There is a threat of growing informality within cities where opportunities are available. These people from various income categories, especially from the weaker sections of the society, they are coming to cities, and they are living in conditions which are very disturbing. And something needs to be done about this. But I'm sure you would have heard about some of the good initiatives that local governments have been taken also. It's not as if local governments have failed totally. There are some success stories, good examples that we see from different parts of the country. To give you an example, I visited Islam in Pune, and I was very impressed to see that all the households were provided with a piped drinking water supply. So within our country also, there are examples of good things happening for people living in informal areas, but this, its scale has to grow. As the speaker said, these good success stories, they have to be replicated in other parts of the country, where ways have to be found how to implement such good practices in informal areas for the benefit of those communities that live there. So thank you very much for your views. And I would like to move ahead in the take the program forward. I would like to invite the final discussant, Ms. Saili Udas Mankikar, who is currently with the National Institute of Urban Affairs. I would like to invite her to say a few words about the topic chosen for today's discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Rumi, for giving me this opportunity, and to IMPRI. Let me start by congratulating a very dear friend and also someone I really adore in the whole practitioner scene, Mr. Sameer Unhale, for this very timely and interesting short book, I would say, that has come out. I would keep my my comments restricted to his book, which I read, and which I quickly browsed, but I think I was able to gain some points out of that, and very good ones. So to begin with, Mr. Unhale, I would differ with you when you say that this is a, you know, a very, not a very big effort, and it's a small effort, and it doesn't have rigorous scientific, that's the words you use. But I think this is a great book. And it is very, very important for people who are not only in the academia, but I think people beyond that, whether, so I used to wear the hat of a journalist, and I had then moved and I was working with Dr. Rumi, in fact, at Observer Research Foundation for 5 years as a, you know, in a private think tank. And now I'm working with a government, semi-government organization heading the Climate Alliance, where I'm working with over 200 cities and over 78 partners in India. Now, when I read this book, I can see that this book benefits all the 3 sections that I have really, you know, dabbled into. And it is important to have this book. But before I comment on the sections of your book, I think for the viewers who are, you know, watching, I think it's very, I would like to, you know, say a few words about Mr. Unhale actually. And it's very important because first of all, it's very rare for a practicing practitioner to find time and to stick out his neck to put forth such important issues, which range from climate to city governance to politicization to COVID to technology. And I think although the excerpts are short, every excerpt has something to be picked up. So I think it will be worth going through each of it and picking up that one big point that he makes everywhere. So I've picked up a few of them and would like them, you know, to be discussed here. The other thing that a very interesting personal note that I would like to put here is the way I got introduced to Mr. Unhale was when I had gone to Israel actually, and I had visited the Tel Aviv, you know, the war room there, and they actually mentioned about Mr. Unhale in Tel Aviv, saying that there is this very, very innovative person who's sitting in Thane and who's trying to take our story there and replicating the app there. In fact, Mr. Unhale was the brainchild of the DG Thane app, which was put together and which has been replicated by several smart cities. In fact, even today in discussions, this app keeps coming up again and again. It's a disruption that has happened in technology where he is actually taken, and I must mention this because these are the experiences that you can see peppered around this book, where this app has actually connected with over 3 lakh people, and they are able to interact with the city directly on the touch of a button. I think in a place like India, where there are huge governance challenges to even move one file, to get something like this going is really credible. And I think you must pat yourself for that, Mr. Unhale, because these are very, very disruptive ideas, and it's difficult to push the envelope when it comes to innovation in governance. So that was the first thing I wanted to put forth to everyone. And the other thing what I saw in this book is that you are trying to kind of challenge the status quo, to challenge the fossiled approach in every comment that you make, in everything. You're forcing people to think otherwise. And also your the way you put your thoughts are not stray thoughts. They are thoughts which are backed up very well. So let me give you an example. One thing that I saw across your book is you really, a very, very important element in urban planning is master planning, which everyone speaks about. And we, over the time, we have, seen with the way cities are developing, that our master planning approach has to go through an extreme change today. Only urban planners cannot be handling urban planning is a conclusion we all have come to, really. So you, in at least 4 chapters, you really put forth this very, very important idea of the need of temporal planning. And someone who works, deeply in climate, and with cities now creating heat action plans, cities now creating climate action plans, I think a suggestion that you make, like flooding into master planning, how do we get, because none of these plans that cities are making today, whether it is this, climate action plans or heat map plans or water management plans, none of them have a statutory hold really. So how do we get, so this is an excellent idea that Mr. Unhale really puts forth, where he says, how do we really account for all this into that big statutory plan that a city creates, which is a 20-year plan? How do we bring all these different elements and the climate elements into this plan? So I think a very great idea that he puts forth. I think there's a great scope of building this further, either by IMPRI in the way of a discussion, or even Mr. Unhale as a separate book, maybe, that, how urban planning really needs to be reformed and how we need to take care of the huge shifts happening in urbanization through a master plan. So I think a great idea put down there. The second thing that I, again, coming from the climate end, you have a really interesting take on COP, COP, which is coming up now also next month. COP 27 is coming up, but you're talking about COP and cities. So I think here, I think it's very important that a practitioner like you really helps us understand things. See, I am interacting widely with cities on climate, and cities are actually struggling to understand what they have to do with climate. And in fact, if you even talk to, a majority of the departments relating to urban, actually say, isn't this something that the environment department should be looking at? So I think you make a very, very important point by saying that, no, cities are at the forefront of climate. And you really substantiate this by saying that, how this 12th schedule really calls for environment to be part of the ULBs. You also give an example of Maharashtra there, where you say that how Maharashtra has actually brought this in as a part of their statutory work. So I think it's very interesting that you kind of make a case for how climate should be a part of cities, and you give a very interesting statutory take on that. The other thing is, I think one thing about everything you say also has a huge innovation part and a technology part, which you also brought out in your opening dialogue. So one of the things that you have mentioned about is an app for rag pickers that was devised at house levels, where where there was incentivizing of recycling, and this was taken care by CSR. I think this is a fantastic idea. It has huge scope of replication, and it needs to go into the good practices of cities where waste management is concerned. So that's so these are the very small things that you can really stitch together and build on the whole innovation part of it. And the other thing I think is that yes, COVID. So I think even during COVID, we've also exchanged a lot of ideas during COVID, when in my previous role, we brought out an entire book on COVID, and you were a part of that committee at ORF when we brought about the book on COVID. So I think you really brought out a very important thing that we always bring out in all the discussions that we have. That is the lack of synergy between different government levels. So none of the government levels want to talk to each other. The decentralization is very poor. We keep revisiting and writing books and books on the 74th Amendment. That where is the decentralization? So I think you bring out a very important part where you say that how the Disaster Act was evoked and how you saw quick and speedy synergies, multi-level, multi-government, socio-economic synergies, which was an impact of COVID. And then you go on to say how poverty became the main cause of all of this. So it's very interesting how you bring in these thoughts. And I think this could be a policy paper in itself where we really link up all these things together and see it that way. The other thing which I think is going forward, right? So we must talk about, while all this work is done, I think you've served a very, see today, I think the biggest challenge for practitioners like, your other practitioners, I think you would be a great example for them because, and for everyone else, because today I think it is necessary to de-jargonize, to decarbonize. If we do not break down jargons, we all talk in jargons. I mean, we are constantly saying mitigation, adaptation, ye wo, and cities really do not understand this. I mean, I've been interacting with people and they say, what does this mean to me? What is it for me? So I think this book really breaks that down, that what does it mean for cities to decarbonize? What does it mean for cities to have better governance? What does it mean for cities to have synergies across levels? So I think you have contextualized many, many things for cities. And this book is really meant for cities is what I feel. Many city managers and city officials should pick up this book, and even academicians. I think we just seem to think on another plane and all of us have to think together. So how do we, and I think here I would pick up from what Manjula ma'am said, where she said ideology into practice, right? I think this is a great way to go about it, where we need to de-jargonize everything we are doing. We need to simplify everything that we are doing for cities, because ultimately it is about what cities will do that we need to see. So, so Mr. Unhale, again, congratulations for this big effort. And although the size may be small, but I think it's a big effort, and I'm waiting for your bigger book and for better conversations with you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Saili. Very good points. It's wonderful to hear from you about the appreciation of the book, the examples that you gave, and you compared it with the kind of work that you're handling at the moment at NIUA are something that strengthen or improve the quality of today's discussion. Thanks a lot. I would like to now move ahead in the program, and it's the time for discussion, questions and answers. If we have some participants in today's program, this is the time for you to ask a question or to share a point that you would like to share on the topic of today. We have about 5 to 10 minutes for this session.
So we can go to Samir sir. I will try to collect questions.
Okay.
Samir.
Mr. Unhale, you like to say a few words about the perspectives that have emerged from today's discussion. Many people took a lot of interest in your publication. That's happy news, and I'm sure you would have to say something to them.
So first of all, thank you for all the comments which were made, and that was precisely the idea of having multiple perspectives. because as we say, reality always has multiple, reality is always multiple. And we all are those five blind men and the elephant. And it's only when we get various perspectives about a phenomena, we get the journey of, having probably a more complete understanding of the phenomena. So thank you very much for that. Thank you, Professor Chatterjee, Professor Bharti, and Saili for the interesting feedbacks onto that. And this was essentially, as we studied in physics, something called a scattering experiment, when we throw ideas here and there and just see how things respond, how the scattering goes on. And that was one of those really attempts, and it was possible because of the health of IMPRI and all the interns and the editorial team there. Having said this, I think the various, the interconnectedness of various phenomena is also a very major, thing we will have to learn, because although it's a very famous cliche, we all work in silos, and we must be hearing this so very often, but its implication in real functioning. and there's this opportunity and the challenge this has, in which we need to connect these various ideas and maybe the institutional processes. And one example I saw very recently was that of almost something which could be called as a portalization of a mission. In fact, many missions now are getting, all the data is now getting digital, and even the workflows and processes are getting digital. So there is no concept of sending letters and asking queries and paper pushing here and there. I think that's a very big thing which is happening now. I think a good way of harnessing this uncertain times in which this big data which is getting available can also be used. The citizen connect, of course, is a very important point. As I think this exposed to the idea of habitants and habitat, and it was very important point by Professor Bharti. It really helped me, appreciate the fact that all said and done, maybe the technology, maybe the rituals and the processes we follow, there needs to be done something more for getting the invisible city more and more into the formal domain, and get some mechanism to get their voices heard and also factored and considered in and responded into the decision making, because all said and done, the inequalities and all the segments of the society and the city participating into the process of building a city and also running a city, I think is going to be a very crucial, undercurrent of all the phenomena, urban phenomena that we might be seeing. And I think this is essentially an effort for that. It is just an initial scattering that we are trying, and it's hope that a lot of ideas should be coming up, and a lot of sharing has to be done. And this sharing ultimately, it will help us for a greater understanding and probably get a experimentation and quicker response, because feedback loops are extremely important. And these feedback essentially are going to help us to take our journey towards, things, better things. So Rumiji, so thanks a lot for that. It was, something who is not from the academics. It's a bit difficult to, get these things together and respond. We were supposed to be good students 30, 25, 20 years back, but that's the end of it. And after that, this idea of reading and writing and trying to organize thoughts becomes a bit difficult day by day. But I think it's extremely important for sharing. I believe sharing and collaboration is the only way ahead if we have to surmount the challenges of coming decades. So thank you. Thanks a lot once again. Thank you, Professor Chatterjee, Professor Bharti, Saili, and Dr. Rumi, sir, and of course, Simi and Dr. Arjun Singh from IMPRI for this opportunity. So, thank you.
Mr. Unhale, Mr. Unhale, I've sent messages, specifically in the chat box. If you could please respond. Thank you. I've sent messages in the chat box.
I'm sorry, I couldn't probably hear the question. I was copying that.
There's a message, certain a message that I sent in the chat box. If you could respond. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I will do that. Yes, yes, yes. I will do it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Arjun, are there any questions
No,
from
no,
your side?
not from my side. So we can
Okay.
wrap by your concluding thoughts. if you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good idea. I think we, before I thank all the participants, I would like to congratulate Mr. Unhale once again. I think it isn't easy for practitioners to find time to document the experience they've gained over the years. So it's quite a commendable task. If I put myself in that position, it may not have been an easy exercise for me to do. So hats off to you. After listening to the various perspectives that have been shared in the discussion, I would say that when you look at cities across the world, when you visit some nations, the so-called advanced or so-called developed nations, then you do wonder how they've been able to address or to find solutions to many of the challenges that India continues to face. And it pushes us to think more on what is needed. Where are we? What is it? What are the gaps that exist in the work that we are doing, which others have been able to gain control of? How come they are able to think of each and every small details, like a cycle track, which is very visible, and unlike Indian cities where even in a certain stretch tracks are available, they are not so visible, and there is hardly a practice of people who are using those cycle tracks that have been laid down. And the same for other urban sectors. How do buses, city transport buses, public transport buses, come and go on time, and how they have been able to address the issue of informality? There are people from the low-income communities within those cities, but the local government seems to be catering to their requirements as much as possible, which means that they may be leading an inferior life compared to other communities who are economically stronger, but they do have lots of benefits, and somebody is taking care of them in a variety of ways, which makes us think of where do the problem lies insofar as our case, Indian case, is concerned. India, in terms of the management and governance that is being done in India. And I still feel that municipalities are closest to the citizens, and they are a democratic form of government. I need not elaborate, everybody knows this very well. And the level of democracy is increasing in the sense that greater representation of diverse communities that exist in cities, that are living in cities, are getting a chance to participate and to contest elections to municipalities. So for this reason, I feel that further strengthening of our municipalities is needed. A lot of work has been done. It's not as if the Indian government and state governments are unaware of this, although a lot of capacity building exercises are underway in the country. but I think more further improvement is needed in the approaches or the methodologies that are being adopted in imparting training to the municipal functionaries. And also assisting them in formulation of rules and standards, because ultimately these are the things that are applied for improvement of cities. So some work, a lot of work in that direction is needed in the area of capacity building of functionaries, exposing them to different practices so that they are able to do their work properly. And also the second point is about how to, and that's the challenge that has been highlighted at various forums and in documents, about how to improve accountability and transparency of the agencies that are responsible for governing our urban areas. Still, and you will agree to this, and there is a lot of coverage in the news, I need not say anything about this. When a road gets broken in Mumbai or Delhi or Gurgaon or elsewhere in Kolkata, there is no information about the timeline when which that road is just one example. The same can be said for other sectors, whether it's bad drainage or the quality of life in informal areas. Nobody knows by when the situation will improve. It will improve suddenly, but there should be some advance information. Citizens should be kept informed about the work that the local governments intend to do, so that they can plan accordingly. Because if they do not inform them in advance, the informal people, communities would face greater difficulties in leading their lives. So two things are coming to my mind. One is about the building further capacities of functionaries, and second thing is about their improving their accountability and transparency for the benefit of cities and citizens. So I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers, especially Mr. Unhale and the discussants for taking out their valuable time participating in today's program. I would like to hand over the platform now to the organizers, IMPRI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So to formally give the vote of thanks, now invite Zubia.
Am I clearly audible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So as we come to the end of this extremely enlightening discussion, I, Zubia Moin, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, New Delhi, would like to formally propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies. We'd like to express our gratitude to the speaker for today's session, Samir Unhale, for taking out his precious time to share his views on his book, City Reflections, A Practitioner's Experience in Urban Governance Amidst Uncertain Times. We thank our esteemed discussants, Professor Mahalaya Chatterjee, Professor Manjula Bharti, Saili Udas Mankikar, for adding your diverse perspectives and valuable insights to the deliberation. We are grateful to Dr. Rumi Aijaz for chairing and leading the talk. And of course, we thank all our participants here on Zoom or on Facebook Live for participating and raising pertinent questions. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on various podcasts or reading our publications. I hope that you continue to tune in future to our The State of Cities #City Conversation series and IMPRI #Web Policy Talks. Thank you once again, and I wish you all a very good evening and a happy Diwali.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Dr. Rumi.
Thank you.
Of course, Professor Chatterjee, Professor Bharti will interact in Mumbai.
Yeah, definitely.
And Kylie, of course, thanks a lot for pointing out.
Thank you. Thank you,
what your
Naresh.
work. Thanks. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, IMPRI. Thank you, Arjun and
Thank
Sumit.
you.
And Zubia.